Okay, so I think that we're ready to actually kick off. It's just gone, well, in where I am right now, it's 11:30 in Adelaide, but we've just clicked over onto the hour. So I'm Roger Vandenberg. I'm going to be taking you through working remotely with Microsoft technologies today. Lakmal, can I ask you just to put on the slide deck and then we'll kick off. Okay, so the slide deck should be showing to everybody. You'll see in the bottom corner there, there should be a Q&A box and you can just add questions in there. So if I could just ask that when you do put a question in, that you put your name as well so that we can see who has asked the question, and it just might be a lot easier for us to feedback some of those answers. So before we kick into it, just introducing myself, I'm Roger Vandenberg. I'm a principal consultant at Impied, and one of my producers who's also going to be presenting today, Lakmal Galapathy. He is the practice lead for Modern Workplace, and he'll be taking over a little bit in the future. Right, so today we're really talking about working remotely with Microsoft technologies. And I think there's a lot of things that we really need to consider right now in the midst of what's happening with this global pandemic. So many things may change. Industries have sort of slowed down. The economy looks as it's slowing down as well. And Charles Darwin actually kind of framed it a little bit where he said it's not really about the strongest or the most intelligent, but it's about adaptability. And I think that organizations are looking at this adaptability on how we can get through this crisis. So we've actually seen customers asking questions like, how can we start to stay ahead? What can we do during this time that can make us unique? How can we, during this time, sort of gear ourselves so that we can ramp up quickly once the crisis is over and re-engage our staff and rebuild some of the momentum so that we can continue to operate as a business while these sort of unprecedented times are upon us. So some of the customers are also saying a lot of these types of IT projects can be used to maintain momentum within the business. So many IT projects can be run in a work from home environment and can also result in cost savings and improved productivity going forward in the organization. I think IT has also got a bit of a responsibility to the workforce to help them enable some of those ultra important tasks that require some of the less in-person presence. So things like design work, planning, forecasting, software development. So those are the things that we can do while we're sort of in this funny state of business at the moment. And today I'm going to showcase two of these tools that are going to help us to get through this time. And one is Windows Virtual Desktop. And Windows Virtual Desktop will allow us to allow the workforce to continue working from anywhere from an existing device with only an internet connection and a browser. We can even start to pump up the graphical ability. So we enable this host to do more things like architectural design or graphically intensive work. And this type of work would normally require you to be on a powerful desktop computer. But with the cloud and Azure, we can actually run it in a hosted environment. Then I'll be passing on to my colleague Lakmal, who will be running through Teams, and what Teams allows us to perform some of those non-specific sort of work tasks in the background. So how do we continue to share? How do we discuss? How do we collaborate within our organization? And the other thing that Teams allows us to do is that the Teams will allow us to be more human. So we can check in with our managers, we can check in with our employees, and we can make sure that we are still connected in the organization and not being alienated by these new conditions that we're working in. So if we click over, the agenda's been up for a little bit of while, part 1, part 2. I'm not going to go into that because we're going to get to it. But what we can do now is just flip over. What is Windows Virtual Desktop? And Windows Virtual Desktop is effectively using Azure Cloud to host a workstation for a user or even a group of users, so that these users can access the environment using a web browser or Android or Apple or any of those types of apps. So users can also use the desktop so that they can use certain applications. They can work from home and get that same look and feel as they would normally do from their normal desktop. Some of the IT pros in the room might remember roaming profiles. It was a bit of a cringe word back then. So Microsoft have released something known as FS Logics, which effectively attaches a VHD to these profiles so that it makes it much more efficient. Because the desktop itself is in a controlled and secure place, Azure Security is baked into that solution, so it's a very secure environment. And because it's easy to set up and scale, we take advantage of cloud computing. We can scale up, we can scale down, and we can do all those beautiful things that cloud computing gives us right now. Okay, so I think before I continue, what I'm just going to run through here is Virtual Desktop. It's giving us the ability to deliver a multi-session Windows 10 experience. So Microsoft has re-released Windows 10 and allowed multiple sessions. It's also being optimized for Office 365 Pro Plus to allow us to actually deploy these new environments. Okay, what can we run on it? From a supported operating system perspective, Windows 10, that multi-session image I was talking about, we've got Windows 10 single session, and then we go right back to Windows 2012. Sorry, for those of you stuck in the turn of the century, you don't offer Windows XP or Server 2003, but we do have 2012 and Windows 7, and I think Windows 7 is pretty good operating system as well, so we can still run that on Windows Virtual Desktop as well. I'm just going to click into a little bit of a demo now so that we can show you what it's kind of all about. So give us a couple of seconds here. Okay, so over here we've got Microsoft Azure, and this is where our hosts are, our Windows Virtual Desktop hosts are currently situated. We can see it's in the Azure portal, so that forms some of the management plane. If I just click across to the management portal itself, so this is the Microsoft version of the management portal, and we can see I have my two hosts over there. I can see some of the app groups, and this portal is actually going to be revamped. Microsoft is looking at releasing a new version in Q3, which I assume should be in the next couple of days, but we're not too sure on when exactly that's going to arrive. If I wanted to connect to my virtual desktop, and now I'm using a web browser at the moment, so aga.ms/wvd web, and I'll just log in with one of my users. Go to webinar 1. Okay, so webinar 1 is logged in now currently, and they have access to Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and Paint. So if I opened up Excel, for example, we can see that I'll be launching that. I'll just have to put in my username and password to connect. Obviously, we're in a secure environment here. Okay, just bear in mind that this is purely using an internet browser. Okay, I haven't done anything else to this. And I'm using Chrome. So there I've actually opened up both of them. So I've got Excel and I've got Word sitting quite happily in my desktop browser, and I can do that. Those are full versions of the product. I just want to exit now. I'll show you the whole desktop. If we just go into another user over here. Oops, that's still webinar 1. Sign out of him. And I'll sign in with my other account, which is my webinar 2 account. So webinar 2 will give me just the remote desktop or the Windows virtual desktop environment. It's a full desktop environment, and if I open up that, I can connect using my web browser into this full environment. Okay, just copy. And there's my full desktop. Now, if we want to see responsiveness, bear in mind that this is over a Teams connection. I can open up PowerPoint, for example. There's my PowerPoint. Currently, if I wanted to open up a standard web page, I can, well, standard little file, I can open that. Okay, I've got it. What I can do as well is open up a browser so that you guys can see. Now, this is a browser within a browser. Okay, but what I really want to show you before we go into that is if I open, we've got an actual application that will give us a better type of performance for the remote desktop application. So there's an actual application, and this app is available on your standard Android, iOS, and all your other Android devices or mobile devices, so that we can actually run it in a more seamless fashion. So I'll open that now. It should kick me out of the background window as soon as I go and log in. Okay, it's just connecting. Okay, it's kicked me out. And there is my full desktop. So this is now not part of the browser. This is actually running from my desktop itself. And I can go in here. Once again, let's open up a normal web browser just to prove that we are not running on the empired bandwidth. We can just quickly run a speed test, and we can see that with a bit of luck, my ping, which is really great, is sitting at 2 milliseconds. So this is the kind of internet performance that we can expect from our Windows virtual desktop environment. While I'm in here as well, from a video perspective, just to give you an indication, let's just open that and we take a little YouTube video and see what happens there. Okay, I have muted it because the sound is going to play through my machine and rather than via the actual Teams session. Okay, so I'm not going to run through the entire video, but you get the idea. This is from this desktop. It's now being broadcast over a Teams session, so there might be one or two sort of a bit of quality issues, but we can effectively run video as well through our virtual desktop environment. Let's stop that. Okay, I'm going to jump back into the presentation now, just to carry on. Come on. There we go. Okay, so we saw there that we've got a full desktop environment and we've also got our remote desktop apps. Okay, so remote desktop apps, different users within our organization can have different personas. So the guys that are only going to use Word or Excel don't need to have a full desktop. Guys like developers will need to have a full desktop. So we can determine how we're going to do that within our organization. From a cost management point of view, everything is running in the cloud, so we pay for what we use. We can switch on, we can scale up, we can scale down when our resources are required, and we can also make use of what's known as reserved instances to give us more savings along the way. Microsoft has also sort of published this particular thing where it says by using a multi-session image, we can see cost savings up to 85%. So here, for example, we've got 32 users that are running on a D8S, so it's quite a beefy machine in the background, but we can support up to 32 users on a single host. So that's a huge cost saving itself. From security side of things, as I said, everything from an Azure security is encompassed within this. So we've got things like MFA, and all the other bells and whistles around Azure security. We reduce the attack surface and we only do what's known as reverse connect technology back to the device. So that also keeps things secure. We can separate our admins into role-based access control, and each one of those multi-sessions is actually isolated. So you can't cross from one isolated session into the other one. They're completely isolated in the background. From a management side of things, you saw a little bit about the Microsoft management plan. They're expecting a huge revamp on that. There are also other ISV products out there which will allow us to manage these things. And of course, we can do it through the standard Azure portal, PowerShell, or ARM templates, and bits and pieces like that. The user experience is pretty consistent to what they are normally experienced with an O365 point of view as well. Interoperability, a lot of people are asking around Citrix. And how does this relate to Citrix? So Citrix and Microsoft are working quite closely together. In fact, the Citrix cloud offering and the management plane you can actually use to manage your entire Windows virtual desktop environment. Samsung DeX, any Samsung device that you could just hook up a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and you would be able to turn your Samsung phone into a full Windows 10 desktop. If you've got 5G enabled, you've got a really, really quick and efficient desktop going there. Microsoft Intune, I see that as well. So just a quick note on the Microsoft Intune side of things is that Intune is available for the single session image, but it isn't yet available for the multi-session image. They're expecting that to be about 6 months. From a patch management point of view, most of those hosts can just be patched as per normal using SCCM in the background, or whatever your patch management sort of solution is within your organization. What sort of licenses do we need for it? Most enterprises have got the correct licenses already. So any of the Microsoft 365 suites from E3 to E5, and then we can use those licenses from an Empire point of view or Intergen. We can actually supply those licenses. Empire is a CSP, so we can make arrangements for the Microsoft licenses as well as for the Azure subscription. Azure subscription, we just need a standard Azure subscription, Azure Active Directory, nothing, all the kind of the basics just to get started. And from an Empire point of view, we can help you out with that as well if it's something that you're still looking at. And Empire has actually put together a rapid start. So we call it our Microsoft Azure Windows Virtual Desktop Rapid Start. And that is to create a production pilot for Windows Virtual Desktop for up to 50 users. So those 50 users will have a team session with your IT guys. We'll do a little bit of design work, come away, get a design, and implement a full-on solution with a master image, up to 5 core applications, up to 5 core applications, as well as multi-factor authentication. And you can chat to me or one of the team if you'd like to know more about this. I think it was, price point was for the 50 users was just under 30K, somewhere like that. But yeah, so that's the Windows Virtual Desktop. Please reach out. I'm now going to pass on to my colleague, Lakmal, who is going to run the Microsoft Teams presentation now. Thank you. If questions and answers, we can take it right at the end as well. Thank you. Over to you, Lakmal.
Thanks, Roger. It's a great show. And thanks everyone joining this morning. And I believe this is quite interesting times. So to talk about some topics differently. Basically, given the COVID-19 situation, and we all trying to reinvent the ways of working. Working from home, before I get into Teams, let me get into the context. Working from home is nothing new for us. We've been doing this for a long time. But in this situation, what's going to happen is we are going to work from home for some time. We don't know that it's going to be indefinite at the moment. And that's where most of the frustration is coming from, how we're going to work and how we're going to stabilize this environment and what would be the future ways of working. And there is a huge human factor count into this, because you work from home, but it's not the same home that you used to work. It's going to be like your kids may be staying at home, maybe your partner is staying at home, maybe your grandparents staying at home. So the environment is a little bit different now. It's not used to be the same environment, that like quiet place, no one is there, you're sitting in your couch with your laptop, right? So that's where we're gonna touch base on few points where the teams can help to iron out some situations from human point of view, being a more human working from home. Okay, so basically, we see lots of communication happening these days on LinkedIn and elsewhere. We all sharing our workspaces. They are beautiful, like pretty awesome workspaces, and there are workplaces like the tiny little workplaces, working on the couch, working from the dinner table. All these are workplaces in Teams context. You don't need to have a super kitted room when you use Teams, because Teams is becoming your virtual office. You can connect from anywhere. It could be your couch, it could be your dinner table, it could be your home office. So it's pretty much what we need to be aware of is what you're presenting, right? Especially when you're sharing the video, you just need to make sure you're using the best features of Teams that have been introduced to reduce the distraction. As example, blurring the background. Probably you'd have noticed that Roger had blurred his background when he was presenting his video. So it makes real difference to a video conference, because when you are not distracted with everything else happening in the background. And communicate often. This is super important, because this is now you sitting in your office or home, and you are missing what you used to have with your colleagues, right? So, and probably you're missing your most annoying colleague who's always throwing something over to you. And so at least this communication should happen to make sense to other teammates as well. So pretty much when you're working from home, you let others know you're working from home these hours, and you will be out with your kids for doing something else, because you have to work-life balance here, balance your life and work as well. So letting others know that you are not available by this time, but will be available in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It will be ideal to have, because it will be more professional when you're working from home. And the status messages comes to help like that. So we use these status messages a lot, letting others know we are not available now, we are doing something else or busy as well. And the presence is important as well. You can change your presence accordingly. If you're busy, if you're seriously busy, you can make it busy. Or if you don't want to be disturbed at all, set it to do not disturb. And maintain healthy boundaries. Point 3. Remote workers. And it's a long stretch. I know that by experience, because we have now been it's been the first week of ours full working from home, but it's really hard to determine when to clock in and clock out. That's super important that you manage your time and make sure that you sign into Teams and get your things done, and you sign out or put yourself on a after hours without getting notified with anything. There is a feature in your mobile app as well. Actually, you can maintain your notifications. You can just set up your quiet hours. You will not get any notification overnight if you set it up like that. So these are the little features helping you to balance your work and life when you're working from home. Embrace online meetings. This is super important once again, because what you meet is your colleagues or your external parties that you go and visit, and the physical interactions that you used to do. And now you're missing that part. And with online meetings, it's just a part of the Teams, and you can simply make a regular meeting an online meeting. Probably you had one-on-one catch-ups you set up in your calendar. So the concurrent ones. Now it's time to convert these meetings into Teams meeting. You can easily add this join button and send it to your a one-on-one catch-ups or your regular meetings. Then they can join the meeting easily. Nothing else you should do. You can simply make it a Teams meeting. And be mindful and inclusive. We have experiencing this a lot. When you're sitting in a meeting room in the office and only a fragment of people, the participants, are joining online, actually you can pretty much, you're seeing each other in the meeting room itself, and you can see the body language. You would understand when someone wants to talk. When it's overcrowded in an online meeting, it's really hard to manage. So that's where I think that ethic that needs to be developed, and you have to put a pause and understand who's trying to talk and who should be going first and who should be the next. That communication needs to happen as well. Otherwise, everyone is over talking. And there's a handy feature is coming, raise hand, pretty soon. So what you're going to do is you're going to mark your team session as a raise hand icon, so everybody else can see you got something to say. All right, let's move to that part. Record your meetings. This comes as a built-in feature. You don't need infrastructure to record your meetings anymore. It's integral part of Teams client. So double bookings, always the case. Everybody needs your calendar, an appointment. So there are double bookings. So you have to prioritize what you're joining first and what you're pushing to the second or third priority. And also want to make sure letting your colleagues know they can record these meetings that you're missing out. Then you can go back and check, especially with the transcript. These meetings generate transcripts as well. So which means you can go search for your name and you would know at which point your name was mentioned, you were needed as well, and properly action it after that. And number 7, make up for missing hallway talk. This is what we are really missing actually. When you're in the office, you talk to people randomly. You simply bump into people and you share your knowledge, share your news, and It could be anything exciting. There are, in our lives as humans, we do have very specific interest groups built upon. It could be, we are talking about how is a weekend and how is your camping trip or what's coming on as the holidays. So these little chats you're going to miss, but you don't have to miss them. So Teams is still there, and this is your virtual, it could be virtual coffee machine. That's something you can set up. And that's what we are doing at Empired as well. So we're creating a couple of channels for socialization, simply for socialization. We can still continue these little chats. And you can, if it's like you want to talk having more fun, and you can use lots of other things like you can come up with a contest and okay, let's break the ice, let's do something like that, and or creating few channels, specific channels to make sure there are the interest groups that you use to continue with your colleagues, you can still maintain. Bring the team together. This is a feeling. The first week of working from home could be fun, and you're sharing your photographs of your home, office setup, and you set up what you're doing in the day. And by the second week, you get bored and you want to get out and go to the office again. That's pretty much happening to everybody. So that's self-isolation feeling, and we need to overcome. So that's why you create as much as virtual setups, virtual meetups. And also, if you're missing your whiteboard, because we are very naturally, we walk into a whiteboard and draw something, rather we explain for 15 minutes. So still you can do it with Teams whiteboard as well. Definitely, last not least, have fun. There are a lot of ways you can have fun in Teams. And at Empired, we are having so much fun. And as an example, yesterday, I turned on a video and one of my colleagues noticed a pile of toilet tissues, the precious ones these days, under my table. And we had a good laugh about it, and we had a good chat about it. That's the time that we socialized, right? It comes automatically and naturally when you share something others can see as well. Okay. Teams is for everybody. It's starting from CEO to the first line worker. Teams can be used the same way. And that's why I put this slide here, just to show it could be marketing, sales, human resource, project management, IT, engineering, first line workers, healthcare, education, you name it. Teams is for everybody. Here's the offer from us. Okay, how Empired can help you. So there are a lot of organizations struggling at the moment, and they got Teams included as a part of the subscription there on. Can be E1, E3, E5, education, F1. So, but they don't know how to deploy it in organization wide, because it's technically it's a one slider that it enables for the whole organization, but Teams needs to be properly managed, planned, and deployed. But with the rapid enablement offer, what we offer you guys is we can help you if you got Teams and if you got your prerequisites met, like you got your Azure Active Directory set up, your identities are synced, and your mailboxes are migrated, and you using Exchange Online, and you got your SharePoint and OneDrive capabilities in Office 365 already sorted. So then we can come in and help to get the core workloads like one-to-one chat, group chat, meetings, conferencing, importantly, and audio video calling, screen, desktop sharing. We can show you how to do it properly. And this is super important. Assess your governance, current governance, and security, because in a remote worker context, security is paramount and the governance is paramount as well, because you should know, you should be very sure about what you're giving your employees, and they must be confident of using these technologies as well from elsewhere. And the basic network assessments, that's super important. That's where people are going to struggle, and they will have no a clue of what's happening when they're connecting from somewhere else, and it's an awful feeling that we can't do your meetings from somewhere. So we introduce some basic tools that you can test your network connection and make sure that it's good enough to connect to the call. Then you can cut off your video. And Teams also providing some intelligence. Actually, it will tell you now better you cut off your video and save the quality of your audio as well. So along with this offer, we can simply we're targeting 1 week, 5 days with multiple resources, and we're going to enable this for your organization. And from the price point of view, we are looking at 16K. All right, I think my time is up, and it's time to look at the Q&A. Please send your questions because we're going to spend next 25 minutes focusing on questions and answers. And we have a panel of experts in this meeting who can answer every aspect of your Windows Virtual Desktop solutions, as well as Teams or any Office 365 related queries. So thanks for joining everybody once again. And I'm gonna end an audio and video session now. But don't leave Q&A. This is the most important segment of this session. And keep live, keep sending the queries, and we're gonna get you the answers as much as online possible. Otherwise, also please mention your names and contact if possible, rather you being anonymous, so we could address some concerns in offline manner as well. Thanks again. Enjoy.
So I think if there are any questions, you can just fill them in. Like I said, just pop your name in there as well, because it will just allow us to see who's answering them so that we can address them. Also, if there are any questions that you see there that you can sort of click on the like button, and maybe we'll get to those guys first. I'm just going to scroll through and have a look at some of the questions that we've had through the session. And then maybe Lakmal can also jump. So is there any limit to the number of people in a team? So Lakmal has given a link over there, but Lakmal, off the top of your head, do you want to just comment on that one?
Yeah. It's increasing. It started very low 3 years ago. Now actually pretty much we got quite an impressive number. You can go up to 5,000 members in team, right? And also the link I shared, it has got pretty much summarized in the table and the limits for pretty much all workloads. So you can see number of channels, how many channels, and number of private channels you can have, number of channels per team. Like, it's super important.
And for a live event, something like this, I mean, that's, I think, pushed up to 25,000 users now or something, if I read right. Is that correct?
Yes, it's from a huge increase from 10,000 to 25,000, because Skype for Business broadcast only could go up to 10,000. This one has tested for up to 25,000 users.
Okay, the other question that we had from Tim was, what are the differences between remote desktop services, RDS, or Windows Virtual Desktop? So effectively, Windows Virtual Desktop is more like a PaaS service or platform as a service, where Microsoft manages some of the more complexities around the load balancing and the access control and pieces like that. So it takes a little bit of the pain out of the old remote desktop services. You could still run a full remote desktop service as IaaS or infrastructure as a service within the Azure environment. Just having a look at the other questions over here. So there were some issues with volume. Okay, one of the other questions is around the resolution of the video. The back-end host will determine the resolution. So some of those machines have got, well, you can provision them with GPUs, so graphical processing unit, and they can be equipped to do things like AutoCAD or Autodesk and some of those other graphical applications that require a huge amounts of graphical power. So it's more dependent on what that base VM is that you're running in the background. The beauty is that if you've got several designers, you could have several designers sitting off of one host. So you'll realize a cost saving there as well. Apple mobile device support. Yes, we're supporting Apple mobile devices already. I've put a link in there, Microsoft Remote Desktop. You can run that app and connect directly to your Windows virtual desktop environment. So you can run Windows on your Apple device, which sounds really strange. Apple support. Any other questions? A question around the templates. Lakmal, I'm going to throw this to you. Are there any templates for setting up Teams workspaces in a way that is aligned with the business function using it?
That's a very good question. Microsoft has come up with a specific set of templates aiming at the verticals like health sector, education, and retail, and they keep building those. But in your case, if you want to localize those and you want to create your own templates for your organization, and yes, we can do it. They are not coming. There are some basic templates you can download and try it out. But what we do is mostly we talk to the customers and we assess what they want and take the requirements, and we build these templates using the Power Apps, Power Platform. And we use Power Platform because, as we know, Teams and Power Platform, they all link together. So you can do a lot of things and be more creative in that. As an example, we recently deployed a bunch of templates. It runs as a scripts in the backend. So someone requesting to create a team, and it goes and firing up one of these workflows, and it goes to the approvals. And if it's approved, it creates the team as well as a couple of standard channels underneath. And also we populated these channels with standard documentation such as onboarding. So everything is doable and more customizable with the Graphs API and Power Platform. Yes, we can do it.
Okay, just having a look at some of these other questions over here.
Yeah, I'm picking one. Can you share some insights about working remotely on documents, presentations, etc.? Great question. This is a capability that Teams having, and this capability we had in Office 365 before. It's working on the same document, sharing the document, co-authoring, and make the real-time changes and publish. Yes, the same experience now you can have within Teams. So it could be any of your Office documents, mostly Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. Excel, you might need to download it, but they all connected. You can multiple people can work at the same time and publish the changes as well. If you want to go back to the previous versions, just like SharePoint, we used to do it in SharePoint, we still do it. So Teams has become the collaboration interface for everything. So you don't have to go back to SharePoint or Office 365 for document collaboration anymore. You have everything packed into the SharePoint interface.
Lakmal, for this type of event, what do you need in terms of licensing to run a live event like this? Blendon is asking that question. Blendon?
Yeah, this live events coming as it's E1 to E3, E5, because as what you need to be mindful is live event is it's enabled by default. What you need to be mindful is the other services like stream, and because live event is running on streams and the recordings and everything going into the stream, so you might need a license for that. If you want to store these sessions and keep them for a longer time, then you're going to consider a additional licensing for Teams live events. Otherwise, live events you can have it right now if you are enabled on E1, E3, or E5.
Another Teams question here. What needs to come first from Peter? SharePoint online setup and designed correctly, and then Teams, or can you deploy Teams on its own?
You don't need a SharePoint design up front for Teams. Teams using SharePoint and OneDrive as a platform. And as example, if you notice our offering, enabling basic workloads, even though collaboration, channels and teams are not part of it, still we need SharePoint and OneDrive enabled on your tenant. So what Teams does is, when you're creating a team, it creates a document library back in the SharePoint, and you'd have no visibility to that, and it happens automatically. So simply Teams is leveraging SharePoint and OneDrive platforms. You don't have to do anything from the design point of view, but it's important to design your SharePoint platform when you're considering using SharePoint as your file management and your file stores, and how you're going to manage permissions, etc. Yes, there's a design piece involved, but for basic Teams capabilities, you don't need.
And Louise asked a great one around the governance side of things. So I see that you have answered that. Lakmal, I don't know if you want to just maybe elaborate on that.
Sure, that's a great question, because governance has been really, I think, ignored topic, because since everything is pretty easy on Office 365 portal, you can enable things in fly, and you don't need to. You're not thinking about it. You're not thinking twice what's going to happen next, and you simply, because we are curious creatures, we do things like that. And what's going to happen is, if you do that and enable a bunch of users, and usually teams start as a playpen. It could be IT group, and okay, then a human resources asking, okay, can we get that as well? Because it looks awesome. Okay, I'm adding you as well. So the governance has been forgotten. Now it's automatically adopting. Now it's in the adoption phase, but governance still hasn't been fixed, right? That's why sometimes it's a little bit late. In certain cases, we have experience with other customers, and because you have given a lot of authority to users to do so, and it's really hard to take that control back. That's why it's really important to define the governance in the first place. But governance is not about blocking everything or restricting users' productivity. It's about finding the right balance, what you're going to give the users and what you are not giving users for certain reasons. And for that reason, still users can request these features and capabilities through the admin. So administrator make the decision, okay, this particular user is going to have it. Well, I saw another question about granular controls. Yes, you can create policies up to the user level and add these special policies for specific users as well. And there are organization policies and user policies as well. Yes, governance is important. That's where you need to spend some time and money as an investment you're never going to regret on a Teams deployment.
Cool, thanks, Lakmal. Just having a look to see if there's any other questions over here. Do we have any specific examples of issues that might arise when deploying Teams quickly?
Teams quickly. Yeah, it's okay. That's why
I'd say that's more around the governance side of things as well, though.
Yeah, Teams. The problem is, if you're spinning up a new business, it's a brand new business, and it's quite straightforward because you buy a new Office 365 tenant, which comes with all the bells and whistles, and you create your users straight away. And that tenant, that's cloud-only identities, no complications as such. Your email boxes are going to be brand new mailboxes created on that tenant itself, and you can simply enable Teams as well. But still, governance and security, everything else need to be considered. But provisioning point of view, that's pretty straightforward. But it's not the case for 99% of our customers, right? You have had your Active Directory-based infrastructure on premises. Now you have to make sure that infrastructure is working with your cloud infrastructure. In that case, that's why these prerequisites comes to play before you enable Teams. You have to make sure identities are synced, your Exchange is ready as well. Can you enable Teams without doing so? Yes, you can. But what you're doing is you're creating new identities to the same users in Azure Active Directory, which is not recommended. And it's gonna introduce a whole bunch of issues for you from the manageability perspective. But if you get, as example, if you get a bunch of contractors you want to manage, and because these contractors going to stay for like 3 weeks, okay, that's fine. You can create these identities and enable Teams and get rid of these identities. That's fine. But in general scenario, in the corporate scenario, your users going to stay. They're coming from the identities on premises. So that's why it's important. And you can enable Teams easily, but you have to be careful that what you're doing with a matured organization. Okay. We have just had 40 people go full remote working who haven't done it before, and people are picking up remote access seamlessly, especially senior exec users. Okay, it's from Tim. That's a good. I think it's a good insight, and because remote access. Because nowadays we got, I think I would say even in Australia we got a decent NBN or a good internet connection for your home, and also the other thing is with Teams, it's more forgiving platform. It has got lots of artificial intelligence and machine learning built into that, so it's not really, as example, if your bandwidth fluctuates and with all of a sudden your link quality and it degrades, your Teams will not disconnect, right? It will adapt, and it will bring your video quality down, and it will suggest you to cut off the video and save the audio quality, things like that. So that's why it's more forgiving platform. It's more a resilient from that aspect. So that's why we recommend you can work from anywhere. I work from airports, I work from coffee shops, home, and back in Sri Lanka. So that's the case. You can work from anywhere if you have an internet connection.
Lakman, I think there's one that we missed, or there's a couple that you missed. You skipped a few. There's a question about how does team config need to look when enabling live events? We have E3 licensing, but I can only set up events to organizations and not public.
I thought we answered that. Roger put a reply. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there were, so there was another one from Sega, and that is, does meeting can only happen at channel level? Can it be done on private level, like one-on-one without to be part of any team channels?
Yes, it's one-to-one meetings or a group meeting, right? What's going to happen is a chat. I start to chat with Roger, and I escalate it. I bring John into that, but before I had done, even before I bring John into that, if I want to do a video and you simply do a video call, right? It's a one-to-one video audio. And I bring John into that, the same chat, and we can still do a video and audio. It's a group chat, group video, group audio. And the other place that you can do is a channel, right? If you create a meeting in the channel, everybody else can see that, and automatically that's been shared among the members of the channel. So those ones are more appropriate for project related and a specific group working on a specific goal. So definitely these channel meetings are priceless, because if you running out of time and use all of you late for the meeting, and channel meetings happening frequently, like every Monday, and when you looking at the channel, you can see the notification, the meeting has already started within the channel. It's a matter of joining the meeting, because you are working on that channel and you see everything happening in the channel as well. So meetings, it could be anywhere. That from organizing meeting point of view, you can use your Outlook, or you can use your Teams client itself. You don't have to go back to Outlook anymore, because you get the full capabilities of organizing a meeting in Outlook now in Teams.
Okay, Roger, there was one for you. We've just implemented RDS for remote. Yep. Remote working for secure access to browser system, which is IP restricted. How does WVD differ from this? Although I think I just saw. So, Tim, not sure if this was answered or if you saw what you needed to see there, but maybe Roger, if you want to quickly just address that.
It was a similar question to previously. The difference between Windows Virtual Desktop and RDS. RDS is pretty much an IaaS, or infrastructure as a service, whereas Windows Virtual Desktop is more of a PaaS type of offering. So Microsoft in the background look after things like the access control and load balancing and those types of things. So it just sort of takes away a little bit of the intricacies of the remote desktop environment from the IT sort of support team. I would say that also the Windows Virtual Desktop from a management point of view is much easier, especially with the consoles that are currently in the pipeline of being released. That management console that I showed you right in the beginning, that's going to be revamped, and the preview of that looks really, really amazing. So that would be the fundamental difference, I would say, as management as well.
Yep. Then there was a comment about live events not being enabled by default.
Yeah, I'm typing. Yeah, I'm typing anyway. Okay, I'll talk. Yes,
yep.
What I meant was live event is included in the licensing. Definitely, it's not enabled by default. Administrator has to go to Office 365 portal and enable it as a feature. You have the control over there. Hope I answered the question.
Yep. Cool. And then the last one from Sally, do you have guidelines or templates around governance from previous experience? I think you've addressed that one already,
yes.
And it was just a comment about the E5 license, or E1 to E5 license is fine. So I don't think there was a question on that one. Yeah, well,
so I think maybe just share our contact details if anybody has to or would like to get in contact with any of us. We'll just pop those up on the screen again.
Yep, done.
Okay, so Jean is the chap in the background who's asking questions as well. There's Alan Schmar, there's myself, Roger van den Berg, Lyndon Hocking, Ruan Jobert, and Lakmal Galapati. I think I got that right.
Yep. Thank you everyone for joining. If there's anything else, we'll be in contact. We'll be in contact with any of us or your account manager from Empire or Intergen, and we're happy to address it in a separate conversation. I think we're right on time, actually.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you again with one of these webinars again pretty soon.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.